And let's go to the COP25, and Greta Thunberg is there. And this is a headline. We are desperate for any sign of hope. Greta Thunberg tells UN climate negotiators. Greta is a doomer. I'm sorry to say. I think she's officially a doomer. Only she's, just taking it to the people. She's a doomer with quite a bit of celebrity right now, but she's aware, and she's becoming more aware how difficult this situation is. And I feel for her, and I'm also very, very interested in seeing what, there's been quite a progression in just the last year alone. Not her viewpoint necessarily, but, in Extinction Rebellion, Greta Thunberg, or the awareness of it, she's the Time Person of the Year. What does this mean in the next year or two as far as climate change awareness or action, or, who knows? Climate activists grew impatient Wednesday with the slow grind of negotiations at the UN Climate Conference, where countries are trying to cement the rules for hitting their targets under the Paris Climate Agreement. You've been negotiating for the last 25 years, even before I was born, said Hilda Flavia Nakabuye, a 22-year-old activist from Uganda, during a high-level plenary session with negotiators. I'd rather fail my exams than fail my generation, she added, in defense of her choice to skip school on Friday to join fellow students in weekly climate strikes. This year's meeting is the 25th session of the Conference of Parties, hence its name, the COP25, and it comes after a global surge in youth-led climate activism, including the largest environmental protest in history in September. It also follows a fresh batch of scientific reports highlighting the devastating impacts of climate change is having already on land and oceans as countries drift further away from the goals of limiting warming under the Paris Agreement. That's very poetically put, drift further away from the goals. Finding holistic solutions is what the COP should be all about, but instead it seems to have turned into some kind of opportunity for countries to negotiate loopholes and to avoid raising their ambition, Swedish youth climate activist Greta Thunberg told conference members. Thunberg, who helped inspire global school strike movements with their solitary protests outside the Swedish parliament, began in August 2018, was also palpably frustrated that her campaigns haven't led to meaningful commitments to curb greenhouse gas emissions. We are desperate for any sign of hope, Thunberg said. I've given many speeches and learned that when you talk in public, you should start with something personal or emotional to get everyone's attention. Say things like, our house is on fire, I want you to panic, and how dare you. But today I will not do that, because then those phrases are all that people focus on. They don't remember the facts, the very reason why I say those things in the first place. On Wednesday, Thunberg was named Time magazine's Person of the Year. Across Madrid, posters, street signs, and train stations proclaimed that the world is facing a climate emergency and that it's time to act, but climate campaigners aren't buying the rhetoric. As well, they should not. So I've been taking part in these COPs for 25 years, and I've seen the divide between what's happening on the inside of these walls and what's happening on the outside so large, said Jennifer Morgan, executive director of Greenpeace. Outside the COP25 venue, activists from Extinction Rebellion blocked roads and camped out overnight on Monday, demanding stronger action on climate change and protections for indigenous peoples facing violence and the destruction of the Amazon rainforest. On Wednesday, the youth activists occupied the stage during one of the COP25 events. Behind closed doors, negotiators are trying to finalize the rules for the Paris Agreement, but remain stalled on several key issues. These include how to properly account for emissions credits to avoid double counting. Well, yeah, okie dokie, that's important. How much wealthier countries should pay to compensate the poorer countries already suffering the impacts of extreme weather and rising seas stemming from climate change. I'm sure these are important issues. I'm just not sure sounds like some accounting minutia. Instead of talking about, again, degrowth, stopping our growth economies and transitioning to other types of economies, getting rid of the fiat currencies and debt-based economies and doing something totally different. I don't, this is just sounds like, I don't know. Anyways, negotiations over these points are sucking up a lot of the oxygen at COP. Yet activists are skeptical that they will lead to anything meaningful. There were some signs of progress toward reducing emissions. However, former New York mayor and presidential contender Michael Bloomberg, highlighted on Tuesday that many U.S. cities, states, and businessmen remain committed to the Paris Climate Agreement and are on track to meet its goals, even though the U.S. government is officially going to withdraw from the accord next year. Hey, that's a positive. Thanks, Michael Bloomberg. Okay, appreciate you. Environmental groups expect that several other countries will announce more aggressive commitments to curb greenhouse gas emissions on Wednesday. Okay, well, let's hope that's true. Let's hope that's an actual thing. Let's hope somebody leads somebody makes some balls to the walls kind of commitments and goes, and does it. The European Commission also announced on Wednesday details of a European Green Deal that would put the continent on track for zeroing out its contributions to climate change by 2050. Wah, wah, wah. Not good enough. Not good enough.